Welcome back, coin hunters. Today, we are diving into the fascinating world of United States Washington quarter dollars. And some of these ordinary-looking 25-cent coins could be worth far more than their face value. In this video, we'll reveal the top 5 most valuable Washington quarters, featuring rare dates, different mint marks, unusual varieties, and different conditions that can dramatically change their value. Some exceptional examples have reached tens of thousands, and even over $100,000 at auction. So before you spend that old quarter, check the date, mint mark, and condition carefully. Stay with us until the end, because the number 1 coin is a true Washington quarter treasure. Let's begin the coin number 1, the 1969 Washington quarter with no mint mark, found in circulated condition. At first glance, this quarter may look completely ordinary, but many collectors still want to know. Is it rare? Is it valuable? And could an old 1969 quarter really be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Stay with me, because we're going to examine its history, features, rarity, condition, collector demand, and realistic auction market value. The Washington quarter has been one of America's most recognizable coins since its introduction in 1932. By 1969, the United States Mint was producing Washington quarters in copper-nickel-clad composition instead of the 90% silver composition used on earlier quarters. The 1969 Philadelphia issue had a large mintage of approximately 176 million coins, making the ordinary circulated example relatively common today. One important detail about this coin is the missing mint mark. Many new collectors see a 1969 quarter without a mint mark and immediately think it is a rare mint error. But that is not normally the case. Philadelphia produced quarters of this era were intentionally struck without a mint mark. The Philadelphia P mint mark was not used on circulating Washington quarters until 1980. So, if your 1969 quarter has no mint mark, that feature alone does not make it rare. Now let's examine the coin itself. On the obverse, you can see the famous portrait of George Washington facing left. Around him are the words Liberty and I in God We Trust, with the date 1969 appearing at the bottom. The area near Washington's neck is where you would look for a mint mark. On a normal Philadelphia 1969 quarter, there is no letter there. On the reverse, you will see the American eagle surrounded by stars, along with United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar. Because this is a copper-nickel-clad quarter, the edge normally shows the copper-colored core between the outer layers. This can also help collectors identify unusual errors or damage. Now comes the most important question. How rare is a circulated 1969 Washington quarter without a mint mark? The answer is that the normal coin is not considered a major rarity. Millions were produced, and many examples survive today. However, collectors pay close attention to condition. A heavily circulated quarter with scratches, wear, dirt, and contact marks is generally worth only a small amount above, or sometimes just around, its face value. The situation changes when you find an exceptionally well-preserved example. High-grade 1969 Philadelphia quarters can be considerably more valuable because truly superb examples are much harder to find. Auction records demonstrate this difference. Exceptional certified examples have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, showing that condition can be far more important than the date alone. For a normal circulated 1969 Washington quarter, a realistic value is generally around 25 cents to perhaps $1 or a little more, depending on condition and collector interest. But don't confuse this with exceptional auction examples. A professionally graded high-grade specimen can bring dramatically more. For example, documented auction records include an MS-66 example selling for around $100, while an exceptional MS-67 Plus example has reportedly sold for more than $6,500. That does not mean every 1969 quarter is worth thousands of dollars. The difference is condition, certification, quality, and collector demand. A worn coin from circulation and a nearly flawless certified coin are completely different markets. Collectors should also watch for genuine mint errors. If your quarter has dramatic doubling, an unusual strike, a wrong planchet, missing clad layer, or another legitimate mint-made error, it may deserve further investigation. But be careful. Scratches, dents, machine doubling, corrosion, and post-mint damage are often mistaken for valuable errors. If you find one of these quarters, never clean it. Cleaning can permanently damage the coin's original surface and reduce its collector value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and examine it under good lighting. If the coin appears unusually well preserved or shows a potentially important mint error, consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. So, let's bring everything together. The 1969 Washington quarter with no mint mark is an interesting coin from the early clad era of American coinage. The missing mint mark is normal for a Philadelphia issue and does not automatically make the coin rare. A typical circulated example is usually a modest value coin. However, exceptional condition, major authenticated mint errors, and high-grade certified examples can create much stronger collector demand and substantially higher auction prices. So before you spend that old quarter or toss it into a jar, take a second look. Check the date, examine the surfaces, inspect the edge, and compare the coin with genuine auction records. Sometimes the difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable collectible can come down to a tiny detail. Next up, coin number 2, the 1972 Washington quarter with no mint mark in extra fine condition. This quarter may look like an ordinary 25-cent piece, but when you examine its date, mint mark position, condition, surfaces, and possible varieties, it becomes a fascinating piece of American coinage history. In today's video, we're going to explore its history, unique features, rarity, collector demand, realistic market value, and what you should do if you discover one in your collection. Before we get into the exciting value discussion, there is one important fact to understand. A 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark is normally a Philadelphia mint issue, not automatically a mint error. Philadelphia produced more than 250 million Washington quarters in 1972, so the absence of a mint mark alone does not make this coin extremely rare. However, an attractive extra fine example can still be desirable to collectors, especially when it has strong details, clean surfaces, and good eye appeal. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design became one of the most recognizable images in American coinage and remained on the quarter for decades. By 1972, the United States had already moved away from the traditional 90% silver composition used in earlier Washington quarters. Starting in 1965, regular quarters were produced using a copper-nickel clad composition. This change was made largely because rising silver prices and coin shortages made silver coinage increasingly expensive to maintain in circulation. The 1972 Washington quarter therefore belongs to an important period in American numismatic history. The coin is made with copper-nickel outer layers bonded to a copper core, giving it the familiar clad appearance and characteristic edge. The Philadelphia Mint produced 250,962,000 Washington quarters dated 1972. Since Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on circulating quarters at this time, a genuine 1972 Philadelphia quarter normally has no mint letter beside Washington's neck. This is an important lesson for new collectors. No mint mark does not automatically mean an error. On this particular coin, it is exactly what we expect from a Philadelphia production. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, you will see the portrait of George Washington facing left. The words Liberty appear above his head, while I in God we trust appears on either side of his portrait. The date 1972 is positioned at the bottom. The area near the base of Washington's neck is especially important because this is where collectors look for the mint mark. A 1972 Philadelphia quarter should have no mint mark in that location. The reverse features the American eagle with its wings spread. Around the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar. Now let's focus on the condition described for today's coin, extra fine. Extra fine, often written as XF, means the coin has experienced some circulation but still retains a large amount of its original detail. Washington's hair should remain well defined, the lettering should be sharp, and important design elements should still show considerable detail. There may be light wear on the highest points, along with minor contact marks and surface imperfections. An attractive extra fine 1972 quarter can look considerably better than a heavily worn example. However, it is still important to remember that extra fine is not the same as mint state. A coin graded XF has circulated, while an MS coin shows no wear from circulation. Now we reach one of the most important questions. Is the 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark rare? The normal answer is no. With a mintage of more than 250 million pieces, the 1972 Philadelphia quarter is not considered a scarce date in circulated grades. Millions of examples survived, and collectors can still find them relatively easily. But rarity can take different forms. A coin doesn't necessarily have to have a tiny mintage to become interesting. Condition rarity, exceptional strike quality, unusual varieties, and major mint errors can all increase collector demand. For an extra fine 1972 quarter, the main attraction is usually its condition and overall appearance rather than the absence of a mint mark. If your example has strong remaining detail, attractive surfaces, and minimal damage, it can be a nice addition to a Washington quarter collection. Collectors should also pay attention to possible varieties and errors. Some double dies and other varieties can carry premiums if they are genuine and recognized by the numismatic community. However, many supposed errors found on circulated coins are simply scratches, dents, die deterioration, machine doubling, or damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. That is why authentication is extremely important when someone believes they have discovered a rare 1972 quarter. Now let's talk about the part everyone wants to know. How much could a 1972 Washington quarter with no mint mark in extra fine condition be worth today? For a normal extra fine circulated example, the value is generally modest. The coin's large mintage means that an ordinary circulated example does not command a huge premium simply because it is dated 1972. Depending on the exact grade, eye appeal, and current market demand, an extra fine example might typically be worth around 25 cents to $1 or a few dollars, with especially attractive examples potentially selling for somewhat more. Actual prices vary between dealers, collectors, and auction venues. The really impressive prices belong to exceptional certified coins. A high-grade mint state example can be worth dramatically more than an ordinary circulated quarter because superb specimens are much scarcer. This difference is extremely important. You may see an internet listing claiming that a 1972 quarter is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, but an asking price is not the same as an actual selling price. Always look for documented auction results and consider the certified grade. If your extra fine quarter has a major authenticated mint error or a recognized variety, the value can change significantly. In such a case, the coin could potentially be worth substantially more than a normal circulated example. So the safest way to describe the value is this. A normal 1972 Philadelphia quarter in extra fine condition is generally a low-value collectible, while exceptional grades and genuine errors can bring much stronger prices. If you have a 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark, the first thing you should do is protect the coin. Avoid cleaning, polishing, rubbing, or using chemicals on it. Natural surfaces are important to collectors, and cleaning can permanently damage the coin. Next, examine the date carefully and make sure the coin is genuinely dated 1972. Check the mint mark area near Washington's neck. Remember that no mint mark is normal for a Philadelphia quarter of this era. Then inspect both sides of the coin under good lighting. Look at Washington's hair, cheek, jaw, lettering, date, and the eagle's feathers. These areas can help you judge how much circulation where the coin has experienced. Pay special attention to if you think your coin contains a genuine double die or major mint error, don't immediately believe a huge online valuation. Take photographs, compare the coin with reliable references, and consider professional authentication. And remember, never clean the coin. Even if it is dirty, dark, or stained, cleaning can reduce its collector appeal and potentially destroy evidence that could help determine its originality. So, what have we learned about the 1972 Washington quarter with no mint mark in extra fine condition? This is an interesting coin from an important period in American coinage. The no mint mark Philadelphia issue had a very large mintage of more than 250 million coins, meaning the normal circulated example is not considered a major rarity. However, condition still matters. An attractive extra fine coin with strong remaining details can be a worthwhile addition to a Washington quarter collection. And if the coin turns out to have an authentic major mint error, recognized variety, or exceptionally high grade, the potential value can be much greater. The most important thing is not to believe every dramatic price you see online. A normal 1972 quarter is not automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Real value depends on authenticity, grade, condition, variety, rarity, and what collectors are actually willing to pay in the marketplace. So, if you have a 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark, don't throw it away. Examine it carefully, protect its original surface, and compare it with trustworthy numismatic information. Sometimes the smallest details can make a major difference. Next up, the coin number 3, the 1990p Washington quarter, featuring the Philadelphia Mint's P mint mark in worn or circulated condition. This is a coin that many people might overlook because more than 600 million examples were produced. But there is an important question every collector should ask. Could a 1990p Washington quarter become valuable because of its condition, variety, error, or exceptional grade? The answer is interesting. The ordinary circulated 1990p quarter is generally not a rare coin, but exceptional examples can bring surprisingly strong prices. In fact, documented auction records show that outstanding certified examples have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. PCGS records a 1990p Washington quarter graded MS-67 selling for $1,625, while Great Collections reports a remarkable MS-68 example selling for $4,443.75. So today, we're going to explore the history, design, rarity, collector demand, realistic market value, and the important details you should check before deciding what your 1990p quarter might be worth. The Washington quarter has been one of America's most recognizable coins since 1932. The original issue was created to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the obverse design featuring Washington was created by sculptor John Flanagan. By 1990, the Washington quarter was already well established as a major part of everyday American commerce. Unlike the classic silver Washington quarters produced before 1965, the 1990p quarter was made from copper nickel-clad material. According to PCGS, the coin consists of a 75% copper and 25% nickel outer composition over a pure copper center. It weighs approximately 5.67 grams and measures about 24.30 millimeters across. The Philadelphia Mint produced 613,792,000 Washington quarters dated 1990. That enormous production number tells us something important. The normal 1990p quarter is not rare simply because of its date or mint mark. The P mint mark is actually an important part of the coin's identity. Philadelphia began placing the P mint mark on circulating Washington quarters in 1980, so seeing a P on a 1990 quarter is completely normal. Let's examine the coin carefully. On the obverse, George Washington faces left. Above him is the word Liberty, while I in God we trust appears around his portrait. The date 1990 is positioned at the bottom. The P mint mark can be found on the obverse near the base of Washington's neck. This small letter identifies the Philadelphia Mint. Collectors should examine the mint mark carefully because altered or damaged coins can sometimes create misleading appearances. The reverse displays the famous American eagle with its wings spread. Around the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar. The coin also has a reeded edge, another useful feature for identification. The condition of today's coin is described as worn condition. A worn or circulated quarter will normally show contact marks, scratches, dullness, and loss of detail on the highest areas of Washington's portrait and the eagle. The surfaces may also have discoloration from years of handling and circulation. This is where collectors need to understand the difference between a worn coin and a high-grade coin. The 1990p date itself is common, but a superb coin with virtually no circulation where it can become much more desirable. Now let's talk about rarity. The 1990p Washington quarter had a mintage of more than 613 million pieces, so a normal worn example is not considered a scarce coin. PCGS's coin facts information also classifies the issue as a common modern Washington quarter in general, with substantial numbers surviving. But here's where things become exciting. Coin collecting is not simply about how many coins were originally produced. Collectors also care about condition rarity. Millions of coins may have been struck, but only a small fraction can survive with exceptional surfaces, strong strikes, excellent luster, and very high certified grades. That is why an ordinary-looking 1990p quarter can have a completely different value from an exceptional MS67 or MS68 example. For example, PCGS records a 1990p quarter graded MS67 that sold for $1,625. Great Collections also reports a 1990p MS68 example selling for $4,443.75, showing just how dramatically the value can rise when an otherwise common modern coin reaches an elite grade. However, these auction results should not be used to claim that every 1990p quarter is worth thousands of dollars. These are exceptional certified coins, not ordinary circulated examples. Now let's discuss the value of the 1990p Washington quarter in worn condition. For a normal circulated or worn example, the value is generally modest. Namista's current reference information lists the 1990p issue around 40 cents across circulated grades, although actual buying and selling prices can vary depending on the coin's appearance, location, dealer, and collector demand. Other market data can show higher asking or transaction prices for particular examples, but collectors should always distinguish between a listing price and a confirmed sale. So if your 1990p Washington quarter is heavily worn, scratched, dirty, or damaged from circulation, it is generally not a $1,000 coin simply because it has a P mint mark. PCGS lists the auction record at $1,625 for an MS67 example, while Great Collections has recorded a spectacular $4,443.75 sale for an MS68. These results demonstrate the importance of grade. A worn quarter may be worth only a small amount, while an exceptional specimen can become a serious collector coin. And there is another possibility, a genuine major mint error. If your 1990p quarter has a properly authenticated mint-made error, its value could be significantly different from that of a normal example. But professional authentication is essential because ordinary damage is frequently mistaken for an error. If you discover a 1990p Washington quarter, the first thing you should do is do not clean it. Never polish, scrape, rub, or chemically clean an old coin in an attempt to make it look more valuable. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface and reduce its collector appeal. Next, inspect the date and mint mark. Make sure the coin really is dated 1990 and carries the P mint mark in the correct location. Then examine Washington's portrait carefully. Look at his cheek, hair, jaw, and the surrounding fields. Check for unusual doubling, strange raised areas, or other characteristics that appear to have originated during the minting process. Turn the coin over and inspect the eagle. Look at the feathers, lettering, stars, and rim. Also examine the edge for unusual characteristics. If your coin is worn, its value will normally be modest. But if you discover a coin that appears nearly flawless despite its age, that's when you should pay closer attention. A high-grade modern quarter can sometimes be much harder to find than the original mintage numbers suggest. If you believe you have a significant error or an exceptionally high-grade specimen, consider professional authentication and grading. A reputable grading service can verify authenticity and assign an official condition grade, which can make a major difference when selling a valuable coin. Most importantly, never judge value from a single internet listing. Look for actual completed auction sales involving the same date, mint mark, variety, and grade. So, what is the story behind the 1990p Washington quarter in worn condition? This quarter is a fascinating example of how coin value works. More than 613 million 1990p quarters were produced, meaning the normal circulated coin is common rather than rare. A worn example will usually have only a modest value, often close to face value. But exceptional condition can completely change the picture. Documented auction results show that highly graded examples have reached $1,625 and even $4,443.75, demonstrating the extraordinary premiums that can occur for top condition specimens. The key lesson is simple. Don't assume every 1990p quarter is valuable, but don't ignore one either. Check the condition, inspect the surfaces, examine the mint mark, look for legitimate varieties or errors, and compare your coin with real auction results. That worn quarter sitting in an old collection probably isn't worth thousands of dollars. But if you discover an unusually sharp, nearly flawless example, or a genuine, authenticated mint error, you may have something much more interesting. Next up, the coin number for the 1995 P Washington quarter in fine condition, a modern United States quarter that can look completely ordinary at first glance, but becomes much more interesting when we examine its history, condition, mint mark, rarity, and auction market records. The 1995 P Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the P mint mark appears on the obverse near the base of George Washington's neck. More than 1 billion examples were produced, so an ordinary circulated 1995 P quarter is not considered a rare coin. But here's where the story gets exciting. Although the normal fine condition example is generally worth little more than face value, exceptional high-grade examples have brought surprisingly strong prices. A documented PCGS auction record shows a 1995 P Washington quarter graded MS-68 selling for $3,600 at Heritage Auctions. So, could the quarter in your collection be valuable? Let's examine exactly what makes this coin interesting and what you should realistically expect from a fine condition 1995 P Washington quarter. The Washington quarter has been part of American coinage since 1932. It was originally introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The famous portrait on the obverse was designed by sculptor John Flanagan and became one of the most recognizable designs in United States coinage. By 1995, the Washington quarter was firmly established as a modern-clad coin. Unlike the classic Washington quarters dated 1964 and earlier, the regular 1995 P quarter was not made from 90% silver. It used a copper-nickel-clad composition over a copper center. PCGS lists the coin at approximately 24.30 millimeters in diameter and 5.67 grams in weight, with a reeded edge. The Philadelphia Mint produced exactly 1,004,336,000 regular strike Washington quarters dated 1995. That enormous mintage is one of the most important facts when determining rarity. The P mint mark is also completely normal. Philadelphia began using the P mint mark on circulating Washington quarters in 1980, so seeing a P on a 1995 quarter identifies it as a Philadelphia issue. It is not, by itself, an indication of a rare error. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, you will see the familiar portrait of George Washington facing left. Above the portrait is the word Liberty, while I in God We Trust appears on either side of Washington's portrait. The date 1995 is positioned along the bottom. The small P mint mark is located near the base of Washington's neck. This tiny letter is one of the first things collectors should check when identifying the coin. Turn the quarter over, and you'll see the American eagle with its wings spread. The reverse includes United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar. The coin also has the familiar reeded edge associated with Washington quarters of this period. Now let's focus on the condition. Fine, commonly abbreviated as F12. A fine condition coin has experienced noticeable circulation wear. Some of the highest design details will be flattened, Washington's hair and facial features will show wear, and the reverse eagle will have lost some of its finer detail. The fields may contain scratches, contact marks, discoloration, or other evidence of circulation. This is very different from an uncirculated coin. A fine condition quarter has clearly been used in commerce, while a mint state coin has no circulation wear. That distinction is extremely important because condition has a huge effect on the value of modern Washington quarters. Rarity and collector high demand. Now we come to the most important question. Is the 1995 P Washington quarter rare? For an ordinary circulated example, including a fine condition coin, the answer is no. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 1 billion pieces, and PCGS describes the issue as very common in circulated grades and even through MS-64. So why do we sometimes hear about 1995 P quarters selling for hundreds or thousands of dollars? The answer is condition rarity. Although huge numbers were produced, the number of coins surviving in truly exceptional condition becomes much smaller as the grade rises. PCGS estimates that the coin becomes scarce around MS-67 and extremely difficult to find in MS-68. PCGS identifies MS68 as the highest grade for this issue and notes that possibly no more than about 10 examples exist at that level. This creates a fascinating situation. A worn 1995 P quarter can be found easily, but a nearly flawless example with outstanding surfaces and an elite professional grade can become highly desirable. That is why collectors should never confuse mintage rarity with condition rarity. The coin may be common overall, but exceptional specimens can still be rare. Collectors should also remain alert for genuine mint errors. A dramatic off-center strike, wrong planchet error, double strike, missing clad layer, or another authenticated mint-made error could potentially make a 1995 P quarter much more valuable. Recent auction records show that some genuine 1995 P error coins have sold for hundreds of dollars. However, damage after the coin left the mint is not the same thing as a mint error. Scratches, dents, corrosion, machine doubling, and other damage are often mistaken for valuable errors. Now let's talk about the value of the 1995 P Washington quarter in fine condition. This is where we need to be realistic. A normal fine condition 1995 P quarter is generally worth around face value, approximately 25 cents, because millions of circulated examples remain available. Current market references also show circulated 1995 P quarters at approximately face value. So if you have an ordinary fine condition 1995 P quarter with normal circulation wear, you should not assume it is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. But now let's look at the extraordinary examples. PCGS records a 1995 P MS67 example that sold for $159.50 at Great Collections in September 2014. Even more impressive, PCGS lists the auction record for this issue at $3,600, achieved by an MS68 example at Heritage Auctions on June 9, 2019. That is a massive difference between a circulated quarter and an elite certified specimen. The lesson is simple. The $3,600 auction record does not mean your fine condition 1995 P quarter is worth $3,600. That record belongs to a highly exceptional MS68 coin. For a normal fine example, think in terms of face value rather than thousands of dollars. If the coin has an authenticated major mint error or an unusual recognized variety, however, the valuation could be completely different. And remember, an asking price on an internet marketplace is not proof of value. A seller can list a coin for $5,000, $10,000, or even more, but what matters is what comparable coins have actually sold for. If you find a 1995 P Washington quarter, the first rule is simple: never clean it. Do not polish the surface, scrub it with a cloth, use chemicals, or attempt to remove dark spots. Cleaning can permanently damage the coin and may reduce its collector value. Next, verify the date. Make sure the coin really is a 1995 quarter and not a different year with a similar appearance. Then inspect the P mint mark near Washington's neck. It should appear in the normal position and should not look artificially added or altered. After that, examine both sides under good lighting. Look carefully at Washington's hair, cheek, jaw, lettering, date, and surrounding fields. On the reverse, examine the eagle, stars, lettering, rim, and other design elements. If you notice something that looks like doubling or another unusual feature, don't immediately assume you have a valuable error. Compare the feature with reliable numismatic references or have the coin examined by an experienced professional. The edge is also worth checking. A normal 1995 P quarter has a reeded edge and a copper nickel-clad structure. An unusual edge can sometimes provide clues about a potential minting problem. If you believe the coin is actually in much better condition than fine, professional grading may be worthwhile. A high-grade modern quarter can have a dramatically different market than a circulated example. Most importantly, compare your coin with real auction results for the same date, mint mark, variety, and grade. So, what have we learned about the 1995 P Washington quarter in fine condition? This is an interesting modern American coin, but the ordinary circulated example is not considered rare. The Philadelphia Mint produced more than 1 billion 1995 P Washington quarters, making the coin readily available in circulated grades. However, the story changes dramatically for exceptional coins. A certified MS-67 example has a documented $159.50 auction result, while a spectacular MS-68 example reached an impressive $3,600 at heritage auctions. That huge difference shows us why condition is so important in coin collecting. So don't automatically believe that every 1995p quarter is a $1,000 treasure. Instead, examine the coin carefully, protect its original surfaces, check for legitimate errors or varieties, and compare it with verified auction results. Your fine condition quarter may be worth only a small amount, but the search itself is what makes coin collecting exciting. Somewhere among millions of ordinary coins, an exceptional specimen or genuine mint error could be waiting to be discovered. Next up, last and final coin, the 1991p Washington quarter in good condition, a modern United States quarter that may look ordinary at first glance, but has an interesting story when we examine its history, mintage, condition, collector demand, and auction records. The 1991p Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the P Mint mark appears near the base of George Washington's neck. More than 570 million examples were produced, so an ordinary circulated 1991p quarter is not considered a major rarity. However, this coin becomes much more interesting when we look at exceptional grades and documented auction results. PCGS records an auction record of $492 for an MS-67 example, while other certified high-grade examples have also brought substantial premiums. So, could a 1991p quarter in your collection be worth big money? The answer depends heavily on its condition and whether it has a genuine mint error or recognized variety. In today's video, we're going to examine the history, unique features, rarity, collector demand, realistic market value, and the important things you should check before deciding what your 1991p Washington quarter is really worth. The Washington quarter has been part of American coinage since 1932. The original coin was introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and John Flanagan's famous portrait of Washington became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. By 1991, the quarter was part of the modern copper-nickel-clad era. Unlike the older Washington quarters dated 1964 and earlier, the regular 1991p quarter contained no silver. It was made from copper and nickel outer layers bonded over a copper center. According to PCGS, the 1991p Washington quarter has a diameter of approximately 24.30 millimeters, weighs about 5.67 grams, and has a reeded edge. Its composition is 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper center. The Philadelphia Mint produced 570,968,000 Washington quarters dated 1991. That is a very large mintage, and it tells us immediately that the ordinary circulated coin should not be described as a rare date simply because it is from 1991. The P Mint mark is also completely normal. Philadelphia began placing the P Mint mark on circulating Washington quarters in 1980. So a 1991 quarter carrying a P is exactly what we would expect from a Philadelphia-produced coin. Let's examine the coin itself. On the obverse, we see the famous portrait of George Washington facing left. Above his portrait is the word Liberty, while I in God we trust appears around the portrait. The date 1991 is positioned at the bottom. The small P Mint mark is located near the base of Washington's neck. This is one of the first details collectors should check when identifying the coin. Turn the quarter over, and you will see the American eagle with its wings spread. The reverse contains the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and quarter dollar. The reeded edge is another characteristic feature of this Washington quarter. Now let's focus on today's stated condition, good condition. A good condition coin has experienced significant circulation. Much of the fine detail has been worn away, but the major design elements remain identifiable. Washington's hair and facial details may be heavily flattened, while the eagle on the reverse can also show substantial wear. This condition is important because a good condition 1991p quarter is very different from an MS-66 or MS-67 example. The coin may have started its life looking nearly perfect when it left the mint, but decades of circulation can dramatically reduce its collectible grade. For modern Washington quarters, condition is one of the biggest factors separating ordinary coins from valuable ones. Now comes the big question. Is the 1991p Washington quarter rare? For a normal good condition example, the answer is generally no. With a mintage of 570,968,000 pieces and a large number of surviving coins, the ordinary circulated 1991p quarter is considered common. PCGS even estimates hundreds of millions of examples surviving across all grades. But there is an important difference between date rarity and condition rarity. The 1991p quarter is common in circulated grades, but finding an exceptionally clean, sharply struck example becomes much more difficult as the grade increases. PCGS specifically notes that MS66 and higher examples are scarce, with MS67 examples being particularly difficult to locate. This is why a common coin can sometimes produce an impressive auction result. A quarter that spent years in circulation can become worn, scratched, and dull. Another quarter from exactly the same production year could have been saved early, protected from circulation, and eventually receive a very high professional grade. Collectors seeking the finest examples for registry sets may compete strongly for those coins. There is also another possibility that can increase value: a genuine mint error or recognized variety. If a 1991p quarter has a major off-center strike, double strike, wrong planchet error, significant die variety, or another authenticated mint-made characteristic, it could be worth considerably more than a normal circulated example. However, collectors need to be careful. Scratches, dents, corrosion, machine doubling, and damage that happened after the coin left the mint are not automatically valuable errors. Current market value in dollars. Now let's talk about the value of the 1991p Washington quarter in good condition. For an ordinary good condition example, the value is generally very modest and can be close to the coin's 25-cent face value. Coin World lists the 1991p copper nickel-clad issue with low values at the circulated end of its grading scale, while APMEX's current guide similarly does not assign a premium to good through extra fine examples and lists higher values beginning in uncirculated grades. So if your 1991p quarter is heavily worn from circulation, you should not expect it to automatically be worth hundreds of dollars. But now let's look at the other side of the market. PCGS records a 1991p MS66 example selling for $45 at Great Collections in 2012. PCGS also records an impressive MS67 auction record of $492, achieved in 2013. More recent auction information shows that the market can vary significantly depending on the exact grade, certification, variety, and buyer. But remember this very important point. These high auction prices are for exceptional certified coins, not good condition examples. A worn 1991p quarter should not be valued using the auction record of an MS67 coin. This is one of the most important lessons for coin collectors. Always compare your coin with examples of the same grade, same mint, same variety, and similar condition. If you find a 1991p Washington quarter, the first thing you should do is protect it. Do not clean the coin. Never polish it, scrub it, scrape it, or use chemicals to remove discoloration. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. Next, verify the date and mint mark. Make sure the coin really says 1991 and that the P mint mark is located in the correct position near Washington's neck. Then examine both sides carefully under good lighting. Look at Washington's portrait, the date, lettering, rim, and surrounding fields. On the reverse, inspect the eagle, stars, lettering, and rim. If you notice unusual doubling or another strange feature, don't immediately assume you found a valuable error. Compare it with reliable references or have it examined by an experienced numismatist. Pay attention to the edge as well. The normal coin has a reeded edge and copper nickel-clad construction. An unusual edge, missing clad layer, or major striking abnormality could deserve further investigation. If your coin is genuinely in good condition, professional grading usually would not make economic sense because the coin is common and low value. But if you discover another 1991p quarter that looks almost untouched, with brilliant surfaces and no circulation wear, that is a different situation. In that case, professional authentication and grading may be worthwhile because high-grade 1991p quarters can command substantial premiums. Most importantly, when researching value, Use completed auction sales rather than asking prices. A seller can list a common quarter for thousands of dollars, but that does not prove that collectors are actually paying that amount. So, what have we learned about the 1991 Washington quarter in good condition? This coin is an interesting part of modern American coinage, but the normal circulated example is not a major rarity. The Philadelphia Mint produced 570,968,000 quarters dated 1991, and many survived. A heavily worn good condition example will generally be worth only a modest amount, often close to face value. The big money appears at the opposite end of the grading scale, where exceptionally preserved examples become much harder to find. Documented auction records show the difference clearly. A certified MS-66 example sold for $45, while the PCGS auction record for an MS-67 is $492, and another MS-67 example has brought more than $1,000 at auction. That does not mean your worn 1991 quarter is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Instead, it teaches us an important lesson. Condition, rarity, certification, varieties, errors, and collector demand can completely change a coin's market value. So if you have a 1991 Washington quarter, take a close look before spending it. Check the date, inspect the P mint mark, examine the surfaces, look for genuine mint-made errors, and compare your coin with reliable auction records. Your good condition example may be a modest value coin, but the search itself is what makes coin collecting exciting. Somewhere among ordinary quarters, a remarkable high-grade coin or genuine mint error could still be waiting to be discovered. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy learning about valuable Washington quarters, rare United States coins, mint errors, high-grade coins, and fascinating auction prices, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Keep checking your old coins, keep learning, and keep hunting for hidden treasures. You never know when the next coin you find could be something truly special. Thanks for watching, and happy coin hunting.